back to the Action Unit. We are really happy to be back in the studio today and continue to bring you stories from some of the top men and women in your favorite action films, television shows, commercials, and all that great stuff. I think today's interview is going to be really special. The three individuals sitting next to me have something in common more than just being in the industry, but we'll get to that in a second. I want to start on the far side, Miss Jen Caputo, who's arguably one of the most sought-after motorcycle and car gals in the business. Not even gal, just in general, in the business. Began your professional stunt career around 1985, riding motorcycles at the age of 22, which actually is kind of late. We'll get to that. I had a 6-year racing career in women's pro motocross. Over 100 feature film, TV, commercial credits, including Green Hornet, Thor, Amazing Spider-Man, Bang Bang, and also the only stunt woman working in the world today in the capacity of chief rigger, which we'll get to as well. Let's see, what am I forgetting? Stunt woman, stunt coordinator, assistant to action unit director, rigger, driver, motocross rider. My God. And then next to me, Miss Masa Amadi, who is Iran's first stunt woman, arguably the best. So according to everyone that I've talked to, I'm late into the game. I'm just introduced to you now because you were recently awarded at the Diamond in the Rough at the Action Icon Awards this past weekend, which is wonderful. What you don't know about Masa, not just coming from Iran, where there is a film community, an action film community, she's pretty much got everything that she has now on her own. The woman is self-propelled to learn different sports and skill sets, has traveled to different countries to learn things she couldn't learn in her homeland. Pretty amazing. And I'm looking at your skill sets, everything from skydiving, wind tunnel training, base jumping, fire burns, horses, cars. My God. So we'll get to that in just a minute. And then in the middle, Mr. Andy Armstrong, who I probably don't need to intro, but I'm going to because I like to see you get all weird when I talk about how awesome you are. If you like action films at all, there's not a chance you could be a fan of action films and not be a fan of at least several of the films that Andy has personally either second unit directed or coordinated or done the stunt sequences on. The man has worked. He's got a career. Beyond that, he's a member of the DGA, the WGA. He wears several hats. He's mostly known probably for your car sequences in action in film, if I'm not correct.
A lot of cars, but although I came in doing vehicles and it's sort of gone full circle and I've gone back to doing a lot of vehicles, but for a lot of years I did big movies that had huge crowds and huge numbers, and I was sort of known for that.
Hoffa, Spider-Man, and the Bond films, some of the epic Bond films as well, and Bang Bang, I think, which is what all of you have in common, is the movie Bang Bang, which you filmed in India recently. Andy, you are a 3-time Taurus World Stunt Award nominee and a winner of the GEM Award at the 2013 Action Icon Award. And that award is really important for this interview because it was for your personal interest and efforts toward mentoring and enabling women in the stunt industry, which is a pretty good place to jump off this interview, having two incredibly strong, successful women here.
The stunt business for many years has been always really has been a sort of, macho-driven, very male-dominated profession, and it's taken a few very, very unique women to carve their niche in it. But even like Debbie, like Jen, like Masa and her country, they still become a very small footprint in a very big business. It is getting better, but it's still not only from within the stunt business, but within the film business generally. It still is an effort to promote women into positions that people don't normally see them in. This is why I've been very sort of forceful about promoting women as riggers and coordinators. And
sure,
it's tough for women. If it's a fight, if they're hit with something, they'll invariably have they'll cast someone because they've got a great body and they want to, so they want to see as much flesh as you can, and then you have to double that person.
And now I'm seeing more than ever in the past maybe 6 or 7 years in action films. I'm seeing a lot of very slight actresses and a lot more
tiny. Yeah, no room to hide pads and things. If it's a 200-pound guy, you can put a 170-pound guy to double him and put pads on.
And now you have to find capable stunt women who can handle that role.
Absolutely.
They can double that actress, It's a whole another way of thinking about things.
It is still a tougher profession on every level for women than it is for men. You know, whether even if it comes down to a fight or a stair fall or, you know, hitting the ground, invariably the guy will have a leather jacket on and jeans and whatever, and she'll have a micro skirt and 8-inch heels and a tank top, you know, and bare arms, and that's what happens all the time, you know. And everyone thinks, oh, that's fantastic. You'll see the guy tumbling down, and you forget that the girl behind it is, you know, hitting flesh on whatever.
Yeah. I love to see people in any capacity of any industry that oversee those self-limiting beliefs that we're taught, that society tells us you can or can't do something because you're a man or a woman or background where you're from. I'd love to see people that transcend that, and even better than that, become role models.
Absolutely.
Jen, I know you are taking on another project right now where you're going to be the stunt coordinator on.
Yeah, a little student project called Rocket.
And it sounds awesome.
And it's a woman director, which is nice, which is why we sort of
first
got
time.
involved.
I think, you know, contemporary thinking, you think now is like the time for women to start really taking roles in capacities like stunt coordinating and directing.
Absolutely, this is still a terrible weakness in this country and in Europe and everywhere. There's still not enough women stunt coordinators.
But in America, we kind of accept it, and I'm sure in Europe they do to some degree as well.
Yeah.
But in Iran, not so much. It isn't a huge action film industry there. It's very strong, but...
and the obstacles that Masters had to overcome are massive compared to ours. Ours are nothing.
She had to innovate the way.
Nothing but ego.
She's the first.
Yeah, and real issues with it, where she has to often dress as a man and go and rehearse and you know, rehearse with a little group of stunt people, because people, it's not necessarily that they don't want to have a woman there. They've never dealt with that situation where a woman's doing something like that.
So they're embracing her there.
Yeah, and
still.
the real hats off have to come to Marcia's parents, who in that regime encouraged her to do whatever she wanted to do, whether it be parachutes or, you know, or ride a horse or do gymnastics or whatever, you know, which is fantastic, you know, because that's ultimately that's where it all comes from, you know. Is we all need some sort of mentor to encourage us to do, or encourage us at least to not say that something's not possible. And I think it's going to become a bigger movement in lots of countries in the world that women aren't traditionally doing things, because you see in India, you see in Pakistan, you see everywhere that women that are starting to you know, whether they're self-educated or whether they're just self-enthusiast about things and learn about stuff, and they're doing things, you know, which is a great thing, you know, because there's no reason they can't do any of these things. You know, you look at the achievements that Debbie Evans has done with cars and with bikes and things. All of them traditionally, even in Hollywood, they were areas that men took over the trickier stuff. And suddenly, when you get a legitimate person who is not only as good as the man, but actually better at, then there's no cause for argument, you know. It's categoric. It's categoric. Absolutely, that's it, you know. And that's those sort of leadership positions are really, really important, because they really are the point of a chisel that cracks a whole
It just
rock
takes a
face.
few really
Absolutely.
good ones to break through.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, but once they've made that mark, it never goes back, you know.
Sure. Well, I would also be remiss not to ask you guys about female role models that you remember in stunts. I mean, there's been a few, Jeannie Epper. I mean, there's been a ton of people in stunts, women that have paved the way. But are there any certain icons or people that you look up to over the years that have been innovators in the industry?
Actually, Jen is my hero.
Wow.
When I saw her, I love be like her.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Well, of course, Jeannie Epper. I was pretty young coming into the business and got to work with her quite a few times. And
fun.
She taught me a lot of good lessons, you know, that I didn't have to learn the hard way.
Nice.
And yeah, Jeannie probably the most for me. Then there's been, you know, other folks along the way. Debbie Evans, of course, you know, she's always led a very good trail at a lot of us have tried to follow. You know? It's good.
I'm
She
not
sets
trying
the
to.
bar.
I couldn't touch that.
Sets the bar high, and we're kind of chasing each other, so it's
Yeah.
good.
What was it like for Stunt 13 to accept a woman in their group?
Actually, we have one coordinator in Iran. He's before worked with one nationality Iranian, but he worked in Germany, and he was a stuntman and a stunt coordinator. When he come back to Iran, one boy went to him and learned some stunt, and
So he was teaching.
after that is to coordinate. And when I go to him, his name is Asha. When I go to him, went to him, he said, "I don't have a stunt girl," and
Oh, just like that.
Yeah.
So he was hard on you.
Yes.
Challenging. Yeah.
yes, and I'm try some practice and hard practice, and then accept me and the stunt.
Wow. What was the first skill that you wanted to learn? Was it base jumping or?
No. I'm first time. I think car crash, and I did car crash, and Asha come with car and crash with me.
Nice.
Yes.
And you were excited about this.
Yes, I'm excited.
Why not?
Yeah, I first did a stunt double of Asha in some Iranian teaser.
Sure.
Yes, first stunt double of man,
Yes.
and that's it.
And then just got the bug, I guess. You wanted to keep learning and keep learning.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that you can't learn in Iran. So I know you were using your own money to go to other countries and learn other skill sets for stunts. Where did you jump out of a
Which
plane?
countries have you worked in?
Turkey too much. In Turkey too much, and Turkey also don't have any stunt woman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and too much came to Turkey and did the stunt, and went to Dubai, went to Armenia, Russia, and Abu Dhabi with Big Boss.
Big boss. That's right.
And
Did you hear that? You're a big man.
Yeah,
Big boss.
big boss.
I've
yeah.
heard that. Armstrong. That name's off in there. I've heard that name. What is that?
But it's
Armstrong.
you don't. There's not even many women that ride motorcycles, is there?
In Iran, we have many.
Do you? Oh.
Yeah, motocross, but we can't ride in around the city. But just
Sure.
yeah.
So you have to have a certain place to train,
Yeah.
obviously. And you
Yes.
have to dress a certain way to do so.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very challenging.
No, a lot of times,
yeah.
a lot of times that they have to be dressed as a man. Though it's really interesting.
Wow, we take it for granted. Not that it's super easy to become successful in this business in America, but we take it for granted because we can go train anywhere. We can pick up a new skill set. We can walk into any gym anywhere and say, "Hey, I'd like to learn this," and
The opportunities are.
Yeah.
endless. Yeah. So I give you so much credit.
Yeah, it is a really. We didn't know whether we'd get a visa even for Marcia to come here.
How
but,
difficult is that to get a visa for her to travel? And then what do you have to tell them it's for?
I wrote letters and we showed stuff from the Icon Awards and and showed that we'd all worked together and that. But it's still a lottery. You don't know. It just depends on whose desk it lands and
Sure.
whether
We were
they're.
hoping Arsha would have been able to come,
Yeah.
but they didn't.
Yeah.
It's a shame we're missing him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very lucky in this country that you're, as you say, women can go and train, can go and do any sport or do anything.
How did you find going to a foreign country like India and working in the capacity that you came in pretty important, with the titles that you had and doing the one stunt that you did, which was epic, the car stunt that you did. They had to have a sense of trust in you, and I don't know what it was like to show up there and just kind of take over and do the job that you do elsewhere.
It didn't start out very well.
It took a certain amount of education, for
It
sure.
took a while for them to warm up to the idea of working with a woman. They kind of had great opposition from them, and it was a struggle.
Interesting.
It was a struggle because they didn't respect me right off the bat because I was a woman.
And unfortunately, the old-fashioned brutal laws have to come in that have to remind people if they don't respect her, then they'll be the one going home.
Right. So you still run your set.
So it's
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so it's it's
It was a learning process on both sides.
first time I introduced you to people as a rigger, and people think, well, but that's
that.
that's the girl, but they think there's somewhere behind her there's another guy that's the rigger. No, but that's the sort of attitude they have, and it still exists. So I think that's a good point to question. That's
Yeah,
good.
we can talk about rigging.
The rigging,
that
certainly,
alone. I mean, that quote was pretty powerful. The only stunt woman working in the world today in the capacity of chief rigger.
Yeah,
I guess that's true.
They're not
It
your
is
word.
true.
Somebody said this for you. So this.
Yeah.
Somebody said this for me?
yeah.
This is not your bio. This
No,
this is.
Yeah, it was actually something that Andy kind of threw me into on Thor. It was kind of another way of kind of rounding out my skill set. It's going to
Sure.
make me a better stunt woman, a better coordinator. That we
So
have to
was
keep
it
track of.
initially? Was it kind of like on-site training for you then, were you thrown into it, or something you were already?
No, I was actually put with a group of young men that were very unkind.
Tell me
and
more.
did not treat me very nicely. Weren't very welcoming. And so it kind of started off on a kind of a rough road for me. But yeah, kept at it because that's what you do, right?
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, luckily my brother is a rigger and very good one, and he started to take me under my wing, and other people would show me little things, and just eventually I've gotten to the point where I know probably just enough to hurt myself and everyone else. But no, yeah, but it's a really I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it because it's a different way to look at stunts. It's a different avenue to go. I'm not sure if it's going to be something that's gives me more longevity, because being a rigger is very, very tough work. You're always lugging heavy equipment around and moving things in. You're first there and you're last to leave, and you got to make sure everybody's safe and everything that you're doing. And so it's mentally and physically, a challenge.
So your first rigging job was Thor, or
Thor was actually
and then
Thor, wasn't it?
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Thor was first
Thor.
rigging, and then on to Season of the Witch,
Wow,
Nicolas Cage film, and then,
definitely a lot of rigging on that.
yeah.
Just another tool in your arsenal for being a second unit director.
That's it. Just any little bit of knowledge you can know about your industry.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I would encourage young gals to do. People coming in, anybody coming into the business, is don't just learn what stunts is about. Learn what stunts encompasses and how it fits into the whole process of a movie and
Sure.
movie making. It'll make you a much better asset. Learn rigging. Learn, train. I can't say enough. Stunt women that need to train need to go out and really, really know their craft so good that you've always got a little something in your back pocket to pull out when they,
Sure.
And it's all about hiring, when you find the right person for the job. And that's what it's all about. You're going to be in trouble. And when you find the right person for the job, they make it look easy, and they make it a lot safer,
Yeah.
It's a very important thing to teach young stunt women, for
to
sure.
be able to say no. I was silly. I was pretty new, and it was a crazy evening on a show that I won't say because I don't want to incriminate anybody. But they were doing some ratchets, and it was very, very scary. They were testing them on the set. I'd just seen them drag two guys across the ground because they were trying to dial up the pressure to get it right. And all of a sudden, the coordinator pointed at me and said, "Get a harness."
Ooh.
And so I walked over, got a harness. Harness didn't fit, I tried to put the harness on, everything, and I thank this stuntman every single time I see him, because there was a man who was holding my wire that was getting ready to go. Sun's coming up, everybody's screaming, "Go, go, go," And some reason he lost my wire, and I didn't have to do it, so I didn't have to say no. And I mean, thank good Lord for whatever happened that day, but it taught me, though, that I could have really, they hurt 3 out of the 4 people that did the ratchets. I could have been the fifth person on that. And by the grace of God, it happened, and I didn't have to do it.
It's
after that day, if I do see something, or if I don't get the feeling that this is 100% safe, that I want to put myself in that situation, then I say no. And I've stopped a couple of stunts. I've unfortunately had to excuse myself from a couple of jobs for not.
It's a very good question though, and it's really valid. It's become slightly less possibly of a issue now than it was years ago, but it's still there. The bullying, the fact that you turn up and it's certainly worse for women than it is for a man. But there still is the potential to turn up and be bullied into it, and not directly, but just by the insinuation. Oh well, you're here now. You're in the costume. You've been an hour in makeup.
Everybody's looking at you,
and now you're looking at the
focus
situation,
is-
and it's suddenly a very, very dangerous situation. And you do have to remind yourself it is only a movie, and if you earn a day's pay or 6 weeks' pay out of it, and you're crippled for the next 6 months, it's not worth it. It's stupid. And people do need to, especially women, feel comfortable saying, no, hang on, I want to make sure this is okay. Because I've seen people come blindly into, that haven't been hurt, but have come blindly into something, haven't checked, have complete blind faith in all the rigging, that it's all okay, and that the guy driving the car that they don't even know is going to hit the mark. And you look at them and you think, wow, I'm worried about people like that, because they don't have a sense of self-preservation, and that's all that keeps any of us alive. And so I really encourage people to speak up if they have a problem.
Ask questions.
And ask questions, absolutely. And if someone can't answer those questions safely,
not-
don't do it, absolutely.
And if you have people that don't want to explain it to you, that don't want to tell you what you're getting hooked up on or how it works, and you're supposed to be the person getting hooked up on it, then I think carefully about that as well.
Yeah.
Because either they don't know how to explain it, which is pretty scary,
And you do have to check your ego at the door as well, and not think, oh, I'm not going to be the guy that says no, or I'm worried about this or whatever, because it's, you got one body. It'll, I've been smashed up before, and the only person I have to blame is myself, because they've been ego-driven things that I've done more than is necessary, and so it's. You need to check the ego, but you also need to have the strength of character to be able to say, no, I'm not comfortable with this, or I want to see it. I want to see a test with a bag or with somebody else or whatever.
And not have the fear also that you're never going to work again in this town.
It's nonsense.
That's pretty heavy on a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's a nonsense.
And it's a
It's complete nonsense. Because
feeling,
you know what? If you're paralyzed, you're probably not going to work very much either.
Of course, I mean
And
that's
that's
a
the
trade-off.
thing, yeah.
So give me some. It's like I don't want to
Go,
go. I'm right
go.
here.
Good. There you go.
Come on. Good job.
Thank you guys for being around. Thank you for having a conversation with us today. We're probably going to have
Thank
these
you.
guys back at some point, because there's just so much to talk about here. But women in film, that was our topic today. Women in stunts in film, and trying to excel in an industry that otherwise didn't really favor them until now. So thanks for sticking around. We'll see you in the next Action Unit interview.
Thank you.